Hey guys, welcome to another East Coast Rams podcast. I am your co-host here, Ashton, with my awesome co-host, Zach. We just finished watching along with all of you fun people. Thrilling Rams football. A a dub, a win, but Zach, this is probably not going to go down in the Hall of Fame of Sean McVay games. Not the most beautiful game. How are you doing, and how are you feeling about the win?
Honestly, at this point, I think the win is the win. This is what we needed. The Rams want to get healthy and they want to be at their best when their best is needed. And I don't think their best was needed for this Raiders team. Um, I think they may do. I think that we were very close in losing this game. And in reality, I think the only reason why we won this game was because of our defense. Week after week, I keep telling us that our defense has played well enough. It's our offense who continues to struggle. And again, we saw that struggle again tonight.
Uh,
What about you?
uh, yeah, the defense isn't perfect. We definitely have gripes, different things that could be better. We're probably one more good defensive draft away from having a really top-notch defense. I do believe that. Like, we're pretty close. Some of the secondary needs a little bit of work. The safeties had a good day. Uh, Linebackers still a huge issue. The offense, I mean, Whittington was basically hurt the entire game. Cup wasn't able to suit up. So your offensive weapons, like, I think is kind of proven out. Like, Tutu can't be your number one guy. He's good for some gadget plays, good for some crossers, but he's not going to be able to carry a load. And, Robinson, I don't think he can be like a number one possession style guy. He's just proven he can't get the separation against these top tier corners. I think as a third wide receiver, he's solid. He's an okay third wide receiver. But the last few weeks have kind of proven that. So I think our wide receiver depth for losing our top three guys necessarily was just not good enough to be able to fully compete offensively. And then on run defense, like the Raiders, fantastic. Kyron didn't really have a lot of running lanes the entire game. I do I don't know. A lot of people complain about creativity and stuff like that. There's only so much you can do with the amount of injuries we have going into playbook. So it's definitely a difficult situation. I wish the team would do better. It's just so many missing two starting linemen, missing three starting wide receivers, missing your starting tight end. It's a lot. Uh, yeah. So.
Yeah, we're going on as Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford's press conference is going on. So there's some news that I'm kind of keeping an eye out as we progress. But it looks like Sean McVay is currently just praising everything that Chris Shula did with this defense. Because again, they made the explosive plays, they made the turnovers, they made the stops, they held the Raiders offense to 5 field goals. What 5 seems like a lot of field goals, but when it only gives you 15 points, we're going to take it. And then again, the takeaways. I mean, we got one fumble, and then what was it? 3 interceptions, or was it just 2? 3 interceptions.
Three. Three.
Yeah, two by McLeod, and then one by Durant. Durant looked awesome. He played really well today. Quentin Lake played amazing today. McLeod, obviously, curl. He was in there, trying to get to the quarterback, injured. Was it O'Donnell injured his, unfortunate that he came down and slapped his hand and, was unable to play the rest of the game. So I think the defense, again, just gets O'Connell, just gets the game ball. Every one of them should get a game ball for the way they played this week.
I would say Kobe Durant. Before he left in the third quarter, I believe, he was playing fantastic. He had good coverage, made that crucial fumble play, got an interception. I believe that was in the red zone, if I'm not mistaken. That was the first interception. He was just all over the place. You could tell he was starting to grow. Like he showed us more of his first year, and we've been waiting for like a whole year and a half to see something from Kobe Durant. His first year was fantastic, and he just kind of didn't do anything last year. And he kind of got stuck on low on the depth chart. And when he did get in games, he struggled a lot. So it was very nice to kind of see him grow a little bit past that. Now you're going against Trey Tucker and like a lot of these Raiders wide receivers. Let's be honest, Zach, not the best crew, not the best set of quarterbacks throwing them the ball. So the challenge wasn't fully there. Brock Bowers definitely, man, I love Brock Bowers in the draft, and sucks we didn't get him. I know people wanted a defensive player, but he is so good, and I think he showed that this game too.
Yeah. Before we continue and dive into the details of the game, make sure that if you are watching us live, please sure to comment. We'll answer your questions, talk about whatever you want to talk about in the live stream. If you're listening to this after the fact, please make sure that you like and subscribe to our YouTube page, youtube.com/at East Coast Rams, where you can always get notified when we post a short, when we go live, things like that. So please make sure you like and subscribe. Also, we're on every social media. We'll talk about that more at the end. But going back into this game, let's kind of shift again. We're kind of praising this defense, which they're rightly to do. I mean, they were putting on the pressure, and we got two sacks. Kobe Durant made a sack, and Michael Hoyt also got in on a sack. So two sacks, which was good. Verse was kind of mostly quiet for most of the game. Byron Young made a very was pretty impactful throughout the game. But for the most part, I think Verse was pretty quiet. But again, going to the offensive side of things, what is your take on this? Because again, we came into today thinking, there's a chance that Cooper Kupp was going to play. We were kind of told basically this morning that sources were like, yeah, he's not going to be good to go today. They're going to save him for Thursday night football against the Vikings. This Rams offense, outside of the times that they got the takeaways from the defense, they didn't do hardly anything. Their first drive was okay, but again, couldn't really get past that 50-yard line mark for, I think,
Mhm.
most, if not the whole game.
Outside of the last drive the offense had before trying to kill the clock in the fourth quarter, that was the only time they were able to drive the field the entire game by themselves without turnover. The entire game. So I just think it's trying to force like Robinson and Tutu into higher end roles, and they just can't succeed at a high level at that 1 and 2 spot. I think Whittington was going to be that primary target, at least receiving wise, but he was hurt and he clearly couldn't play a lot of snaps. He was in a few times, probably because Tutu can't block, and he struggled run blocking the entire game.
I mean, he's a smaller
So,
dude, and his skill sets are way different than all the other ones. But I do agree with you. Winnington was definitely in
mhm,
on the red zone play to get Kyron Williams into the red zone, or get into the end zone. Um, so I agree with you. You know, realistically, we're playing with all of our wide receiver threes. Maybe some subs at wide receiver two from here and there, but primarily we're looking at our wide receiver threes and backups. Obviously, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua being out it's just a struggle, and it
mhm,
can come to size as far as the blocking goes. Tutu Atwell's been doing pretty well week on week. Obviously the red zone is really where these receivers really just don't shine at all. It's been Kyron Williams' game in this red zone. So I think that's something that, again, because these are all, whether you want to wide receiver three or backups, the inefficiency in the red zone is what's killing this offense.
yeah, I think it's kind of like also probably because this Vegas D line is a little underrated. They're not the best in league, but they're pretty good, especially on third down. They kept on citing that metric So really good play by them. I got to give shout out to our boy X Smith. He had some good plays, Zach, and you kind of saw the biggest sparks in this game. Uh, really was his two runs and Tyler Johnson, and we can talk about him a little bit later because yeah, I feel like especially Tyler Johnson, he can't put everything together complete for a full game, but he has drives where you could see he kind of gets a little he gets going and like he gets on fire. And I kind of hope if we continue having issues with wide receivers, like hopefully he can put it together for a full game. And I just think we need to give Xavier Smith more touches. Like he is elusive, very breaks tackles. I just thought like he made a lot of good plays out of nothing.
He did, and whether it was punt returning um, or in his jet sweep motions that he did, I think he did really well. And I know we kind of went, we kind of posted a little bit that we wanted the Rams to get more creative on offense. I know, you could talk about your take on, well, we're using wide receiver threes and backups. How creative can we really be with these? But I think we do see that we do have some potential, whether it's Tutu or whether it's Xavier Smith. Even Robinson has had the ability in the past to do these jet sweeps and do some of these more creative schemes. And we just don't see that right now. And whether that's because Puka and Stafford aren't, or Puka and Cup aren't in there, and there's just McVay is just trying to just get by without them. I don't know, but
You don't have the
it is.
threat of the ball down the field. We don't have a threat of a 30-yard plus play. So the problem with doing jet sweeps and doing a lot of these kind of motion plays where you hand the ball directly uh, to an offensive player, the issue with doing those consistently when you don't have a downfield threat is eventually linebackers can key off of your motions and kind of key off
Yeah.
of your tendencies when you can't throw down the field. Like, so it makes your play calling more complicated and more one dimensional if you start calling it in certain situations when you can't throw heavily down the field. And we couldn't really run between the 20s. So if you start thinking like that makes your playbook even more limited and the amount of creative plays you can do when you don't have a threat of alternative. And this is why McVay is good is when you have the same formation and you can do five things out of it. The problem with this game was we couldn't run. That's one play gone. We can throw deep. That's other play gone. So we only have two options out of the same formation. And the defense knows that. So it's like you can only do so much before they can start really guessing your plays, especially when you have a roster that doesn't block as well, wide receiver wise. When you have a roster where your O line can't hold up as long, like you can see how it starts uh, compounding a lot into why you have to have a more simplistic offense with all these injuries. It's not just like, oh, these backups can't perform the plays. That's way too simplistic looking at it. It's just eliminating our options and their capabilities are limited because for majority of building this team, we were just drafting for role players and not for wholesale replacement like diamond in the rough guys. We were blocking people who were like, oh, you're a tight end, you're really good at blocking, we'll make you a blocking tight end. And same thing with wide receiver. You're wide receiver, you're speedy, you're good for throwing deep fades. That's your role. We weren't looking for comprehensive people until like 2 years ago. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're fine. And I get it. It makes complete sense. But let's talk about this offensive line because again, I think the offensive line kind of struggled a bit as well. Obviously, right before
Yeah,
the game, if you were paying attention, the
for
Rams
us.
basically benched Logan Bruss for the undrafted rookie Justin Dedick. Um, and yeah, he's from USC and had his first career start today. So very interesting there. I know I got to meet Logan Bruss's family a couple weeks ago in Chicago, so they were really excited to see that, it seemed like there was some momentum going with him, but apparently the Rams did not feel that way, so they put in um, Dedek. Uh, so,
He
what are your thoughts?
it's one of those things where he hasn't played atrocious, but he hasn't played good. And he's played very much you could say bad. He wasn't awful, but I think he's been decent in run blocking, but his pass blocking has been just really, really not good and not up to the standard you could tell. Like you got to have more time than that. And Stafford was consistently, especially in the last 2 weeks with Green Bay and the Bears, just getting pressured up the middle consistently. And it was still bad, especially for 2 plays. Now it's Max Crosby, but still, for the most part, I thought it was an improvement over the last 2 weeks. Barely, but that matters in these games, how close they are.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Just as an update, as like I said, as we're going live with Sean McVay's press conference, Sean McVay does expect Cooper Kupp to play versus the Vikings on Thursday night. It's kind of what we already talked about, but he actually said those words at his presser. So good information to know. Yeah. So the other thing that struggled today, kicking. Cardi missed an extra point, which would have made it at one point, what was it? Hold on, a 21-6 game. And then he also missed a field goal, which would have put us up, I think it was 23-12. So, really put us in kind of in that bind situation where, when our offense was, moving the ball, we couldn't even kick the field goal.
I mean, I've been concerned about Cardi since the preseason, and now, granted, the first year of every rookie kicker, at least one out of every 20 in the last 20 years, their first year has been rocky. And then they grow into the NFL after that. So I don't think it's to a point where he should be cut. You just got to expect he's going to make misses. If it gets really bad, especially extra points, that's when you have to start worrying. When he starts missing extra points consistently, I don't think you should cut him, but we may have to sign someone else. So.
Yeah, I mean, this one was under 40 yards, so that's kind of the more, and it was a big doink, and of course we don't get the lucky bounce that bounces in, it bounces out, so whatever. But it is something to note. So he has missed 2 field goals now, and a couple extra points. Now, I know in Chicago during that game was a little different. There was obviously the ball wasn't set right for him to kick it. So that one's not necessarily on him. But it is something to keep an eye on as we move forward. Hopefully he learns from it and we can move on from this.
So, yeah. Oh, shout out to our punter. He did great.
Amazing.
Fantastic game time. Good depth of within 20 with fantastic game time.
I'm just really hopeful that coming off this week, hopefully by Thursday, Cooper Kupp should be back. Hopefully we can even get Joe Noteboom back out there. I know what everyone says about Joe Noteboom, but he is a solid player when he is healthy. And I think he can definitely help the run game. I think he can help the pass game, give Stafford a little bit extra time to get the ball where it needs to go, especially having Kupp back on the field. I think will be ecstatic, especially going against this Vikings team who just had their first loss. I don't know if this Rams team could have had the momentum of defeating a undefeated team, but now that the Lions beat on them, there's, I think, a little bit of a chance. Obviously, the Vikings are going to want to have a comeback game. They want to kind of scratch this and erase it and kind of move on. But I think that the Rams if we can get our offensive prowess back, we could be a threat. If we can't do anything on offense, we're done. Our defense can't win us this game.
Yeah, that Vikings game, it's going to be a tough one, guys. That defense is really good. It's basically the similar statistics on third down as the Raiders, but with everything else better. Better pressure, better secondary,
Better offense.
far better offense. We really, really need Cup back. We need Whittington and Cup really badly for that game. If we get them back and get Noteboom back, it's going to be a tough game. I don't think we'll win it, but it'll be at least competitive.
Yeah, I mean the Rams can't do what they did today, and starting off with the first four possessions only having 67 total offensive yards, um, is just not good. They had 47 in their fifth drive, um, but again, the Rams really need to step it up in their offense. They can't rely on the defense to turn over the ball to consistently hold every time the Rams punt the ball, have to hold them to a field goal or no points. I think that's asking a lot of the defense, who is a good defense. I do think that the Rams
Oh,
have a better than average defense. It is a young team, and they're consistently learning, and I think they'll get better.
yeah, it's still a hair away from fantastic plays. Now, we got there more this week than we have weeks prior. Got another defensive touchdown, fantastic play. But I think about that play where Turner comes in and it should have been a sack for like 8 yards. And he just like lets Gardner Minshew, he's okay mobily, but there's no way you shouldn't just sack him right there. And he kind of just like ducks under Turner. And those are plays that you got to start just making consistently. Every so often is fine, but we've seen it now for 3 or 4 weeks. They just like get right next to the quarterback, about to get a sack for 8 or 9 yards, and everyone is Houdini against them, and or they're covered in butter. I don't know, just slippery, and they can't make the tackle.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's up with that because it feels like every time we get them for negative yardage and somehow they gain 5 yards. So this is a constant thing with the defense. It has been for years. It feels like every year we always say the tackling is the problem, but the defense still is able to do that bend not break mentality. So for whatever it's worth, the defense is improving, it seems, week by week. And tonight they, with the 4 turnovers that they had, I think really showed that they can play with the heavy hitters, even though this was a team against the Raiders. Um,
So just a note off of your point, the tackling in the last few years were at least mostly with problems with our linebackers and safeties. It wasn't ever with our D line. Like Aaron Donald and the guys around him, they were pretty solid, at least at the line of scrimmage. If they got their hands on you, you were going down 90% of the time. And that year is uniquely this year is a problem with the D line not being able to fully take people down, especially in the run game.
yeah, I agree. I mean, you're spot on, and so I think it comes down to Fisk and I mean, even Kobe Turner's was slipping through today, which he normally is better at tackling than he did tonight. But Fisk and Verse, they're also rookies. It's going to take them time to kind of finesse the NFL experience.
Yeah, I agree with you, Falco. Like our defense against the Vikings, it's going to have to play the best game of its season, and our offense is going to have to play their best game of the season if they want to beat crappy,
We need to
very well-led Vikings team with
we need to
amazing
be
passing game.
we need to be creative. So hopefully, I want us to be creative in this. Getting Cup back hopefully will allow us to be creative, whether that's in the run game
Yeah,
or the pass game. Bring Whittington in. Let's see what he can do when people are doubling Cup. Let's see what let's I'm a Kyron Williams fan. I don't. I mean, his helmet is right right there. I really want Kyron Williams to succeed, and I want him to be our, our red zone threat. But let's give him a break. I think he only had one series where he wasn't the lead back, and I think we need to spread that out a little bit more. Let's give Blake Corum a little bit
Two.
more of a chance. Was it 2? Okay.
Yeah,
I
and
just remember the one.
they said in pregame that they had talked to maybe it was the OC that they were planning on doing 2 drives, Kyron, then Corum, Kyron, Corum, and
I just don't know
you
if they
saw
actually
that
did
reflected.
that. But did they do that? I don't know. I
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah,
I didn't
really.
hear that.
Corum was out there for 2 drives out of I think we
It's
had 6.
it's really hard to tell these two running backs up, while you're watching them because they kind of play the same style. They're kind of the same build, and they're also 22 and 23. So I think it's very confusing on everybody. And they even dressed the same when they came to SoFi today. So very confusing to kind of really tell them two apart until after the play has already been made. So, anything else that you want to kind of go through?
Linebackers make me sad. Please stop putting them on national television against top tier tight ends.
Did you see that the one play that they didn't have the linebackers in? They didn't have the inside linebackers in. They just had all backs.
What they put in extra safety and
Yeah,
edge,
had
or
extra.
was Hoyt there? I think
Hoyt
Hoyt
might
was
have
on the
been
field.
in,
Yeah,
but they didn't have any interior linebackers. They just played with safeties and backs for one of them, which was interesting.
oh my gosh.
Stafford, he didn't have a great game. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it made it worse because I was watching the Tennessee game and seeing Ernest Jones play really good. It hurts.
That is
It
still a
hurts.
mystery that no one seems to be able to figure out, and it is just baffling that we parted ways with him, even though it seemed like he was going to play for us, not going to be a holdout or anything like that. So very interesting, very sad.
Yeah.
But Matthew Stafford didn't have a great game. 14 for 23, 154 yards,
Yep.
1 sack for 10, and then he also had the 1 interception, which was a quick throw, tipped, but
A
still
tip pass. It happens. Yeah.
it happens, but still not good.
Just unlucky tip pass, but he played for the most part. Like he had one bad throw, and I believe I'm trying to remember who that was. It was I can't remember, but he had one bad throw to the left side. I think it was an out route, but for the most part, he was on point when he could throw and did have the time to throw. Right, so I mean,
yep.
which wasn't often.
All right. Anything else? We go ahead.
No, just hopefully they prepare more and execute better against Vikings. Because if you play like this, you're gonna lose against the Vikings. Also shout out the Lake. Lake had a fantastic game too. Probably made the game-winning tackle against Bowers on 4th or 3rd down. So, yeah.
Yep, it was great. That was great. So it was a good game for us. It was very painstakingly slow for the first probably quarter and a half until we got that fumble recovery to touchdown.
Yep.
That was probably when things felt a little better. But then when the Rams once they were stuck at 20 points, they just couldn't get anything else going. It was kind of nerve-wracking, but it's a win. Tomorrow's Victory Monday, so hope everyone enjoys the week. Just the short week while we prepare to go up against the Vikings at SoFi Stadium on Thursday night.
Thursday night, guys. Only 4 days.
And then they get their mini bye, right? So
Yeah, mini bye, and hopefully we have a victory Friday too, and Monday in the same week after
that'd be
this
awesome.
season.
2 victories,
nice.
1 week. That's a win that we definitely that's a win we all need, is to have 2 victories in 1 week. So, but we will be ready for that. Yeah, so thanks everyone who's joined us live. For those who are watching
Mhm.
after the fact, please make sure that you like and subscribe our YouTube channel, youtube.com/at East Coast Rams. You can find us on X at East Coast Rams. You can find us on Instagram and Threads at East Coast Rams Pod. You can find me, Zach, at Zach Mayer on X, and you can find Ashton at Rampan Ashton 1 on X as well. You can find us on all platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you want. We should be there. So with that, we're going to wrap it up, and we'll see you guys next time.